Hello, everyone out there on YouTube. I am Jocelyn Starfeather, and I am thrilled to be broadcasting live to you today from Egypt. I am here in Giza. I can't show you a view of the pyramids exactly from where I'm recording today, but I'm very, very close to the Giza Plateau. So just know that I am sending you this powerful, powerful energy from the pyramids all throughout this transmission. And welcome. So everyone joining on YouTube, go ahead and put your name and location into the comments. I'd love to see where you are joining us from. And also put in the comments, have you ever been to Egypt? I would love to know. If you haven't been to Egypt, if there's any way you can get here, I so highly, so highly recommend it. You know, this has been such an interesting part of my journey these last couple of years, is traveling here despite COVID and everything that's going on. And it's a huge invitation to allow yourself to step into a different reality. Because what's happening with COVID all around the world is that a lot of places are in fear, right? A lot of places, we have a lot of fear handed to us by the news, by the mandates, by the, you must stay locked up in your house, you must get the shot, right? All these different things. And when you explore some other areas of the world that are handling it a bit differently, you really see that like all that may not be true at all, right? All that we've been handed like in the US or in certain countries in Europe where there's very strict restrictions right now. Because when you come to Egypt, of course, the virus is here. You know, people are aware of it, but people are not in fear. They're not letting it stop what they're doing in their day-to-day lives. They're continuing to gather together as family and friends, and they're very joyful. You know, people are just welcoming me into their homes, and that's how it goes when you come here. People are so welcoming and open, and it's like coming from the heart. And that comes first before anything else. Coming from the heart is put before fear. It's put even before money. Really, really beautiful. So I invite you, if there's someplace you've been wanting to travel to, or if there's something you've been wanting to do in your life and it seemed scary, or maybe it's especially scary right now with the state of the world, of course, we want to take precautions. We want to be responsible. We want to be, aware of any risk to ourselves and to others, and diminish those risks as much as possible. But also, it's so important to allow ourselves to step into another reality, to have that experience, to let ourselves be changed by that. So if you've been feeling called to travel to Egypt, it's an amazing time to be here. COVID is not such a big deal here at all, and the sites are relatively empty compared to how they have typically been over the years. So you can get up a lot closer to see the hieroglyphs and to see the different temples and to see the pyramids. So it's really wonderful. So I'll share just a brief update for those of you who follow me about what I got going on in with my house, because this is such a big thing, and this is such a big piece of up leveling that's happening in my life right now too. So I have been owning a house in Maryland and renting a house in Asheville because my kids, my family, everything is in Maryland and has been for decades, and I know that I'm called to go and live in Asheville, North Carolina. And this is near the Great Smoky Mountains. This is this very, very powerful place in the world. I know I'm meant to be there in the long term. So what I want to do is sell my house in Maryland, still have a rental house in Maryland so I can be there with my kids and have a good, stable home for my kids in Maryland, but also then take that investment money from my house in Maryland and invest it in a property in Asheville that I know my kids and I are going to be there someday in the future, in the long term. Well, I had a contract for somebody who was going to buy my house. I put my house up for sale on 12/22/21. It's a good palindrome number. And I got there was a contract on it right away. And we thought it was all good to go. They did the home inspection, they did all the pieces, and that deal just recently fell through. Right before I left for Egypt, that deal fell through, and because of something with the buyers. And So I had to let go, right? Had to let go of that idea at the same time as I'm letting go of my house, because at that same time, right before I came here, I was moving all of my things out of my old house into my new house, which feels all unfamiliar and different, right? And so really letting go of the comfort and familiarity of my old house, then letting go of the idea that it was actually sold, all that right before I came here. So I can feel these pieces falling away. There was also a major project I was going to do, a documentary about Egypt while I was here, and that fell through right before I came. So, but there's already a new higher version of that project evolving. So if you are having things just fall out of your life, take heart. We're all going through this on such a major level right now. We need to trust and surrender, let them fall away, trust that something even better is coming in its place. Always, 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 really, really trust. So I wanted to share that message with you too on a personal note before we begin. So what I want to get into today with you here are a few topics that are transmissions from the energy here of Egypt. And in order to share some of this with you, I've got to share images. So let me bring up my first image here for you. And these images, always with Egypt, it's like the image just deepens the transmission to such a much higher level. So here are the pyramids. Now, this one in the foreground closer to us is the Great Pyramid. And then that one next to it that you see is the second pyramid. We can't quite see the third pyramid in this view. This is from a garden area near where I'm staying. And so they're so beautiful. It's so powerful to just stand there and feel them, right? So really just allow yourself to feel them, to take them in. But what I want to talk to you about, especially here, is the sun, the power of the sun. Now, I came from Maryland, where we were experiencing freezing temperatures and a whole bunch of snow all throughout January, way more snow than we're used to and much lower temperatures than we're used to. And then I came here and the people here say it's cold because it's a little bit, it's chillier than it usually is at this time of year. But to me, it's like gloriously hot. And so, I was just really noticing the sun and the intensity of the sun here. And so, if we are living in zones that are much further away from the equator, the sun becomes so much weaker in the wintertime. And when you switch from that, like usually we see a gradual shift from that weak sun of, like the winter solstice sun, all the way to the strength of the summer solstice sun. We get that gradually, but when you travel from a wintry place to a summery place all in one day, you really feel the shift. And so the intensity of the sun is so incredible. And I just wanted to show you a few images to really take it in. Now, from these images, we can really understand how this solar energy was across all ancient cultures, a representation of a god, right? A representation of the divine. And it's because this sun, this incredible force, I couldn't even look at the phone as I was taking this picture. It was so bright. So that's why it's a little off center, but look how powerful this is. I mean, it's a ball of fire, that just sends its beautiful rays of light energy down to us. And so as I was sitting and meditating with the sun earlier today, all of this sacred geometry started showing up and appearing, and I realized that the sun is sending us continually this beautiful sacred geometrical light that comes into all things and gives life to all, whether we are plants or animals or water or stones or the earth, right? We're receiving this light every single day, and it's so powerful, and it is so necessary, and it is infusing us with the force of life and the force of creation. So this sun, just so incredibly powerful here. This isn't a direct picture of the sun, but this was just after sunrise this morning. And so I'm looking at here directly at think about this, northern sides of the pyramids. And this side, is that right? I think that's right. Anyway, this side is the eastern side, okay? And you can see, especially on the second pyramid back here, how the sun is reflecting off of the eastern side of the pyramids as the sun is rising, and it's making them look a bit ethereal, right? They look almost like they're kind of floating in between the dimensions there in that beautiful image because of the way the sun is moving around them. And then this last one, so I flew in and I got in at about 5 a.m. to Cairo. And as I was moving through the city of Cairo to the place where I would be staying, I saw the sun rise. And this picture, of course, doesn't anywhere near reflect how this actually looked because it was such a glowing ball of fire. But this is the beauty and the power and the amazing shades of orange of the sun, Horus, the sun god, the winged falcon god, rising over the city of Cairo. Now, I do want to share a little bit more about Horus while we're on here. And so something else interesting about the sun and related to the sun god Horus is Egyptian astrology. Now, I'm just starting to learn about this. Demetra George is a wonderful source for more information about Egyptian astrology. But the Egyptians looked at the sky not in the 12 zodiac signs that we know today, but in far ancient Egypt, they divided it into 36 decans. At least decans is what we call them today. So every zodiac sign was divided into 3 10-degree segments to give you an idea of how that would compare to what we have today. But for them, the whole full circular 360-degree arc of the sky was divided into 36 decans that were 10 degrees of the sky each. And what is so fascinating to me about this is that they would observe not as much, of course, they were aware of what stars were out at night, but they would even more so tune into what stars were rising in the sky or at the midpoint, at the highest point of the sky, or declining in the sky during the day when we can't see the stars. And this was the basis of Egyptian astrology. And so they would know what constellations were rising, and they would say that these stars or these constellations were gaining strength, but were not at their highest strength. And the stars and the constellations that were understood to have the highest impact on the people and on everything happening on the earth would be the ones that were at the highest point, the midpoint of the sky at midday. And then once the stars pass through that midpoint and they begin declining and going back down toward the horizon, those stars were understood to be losing power. Okay, and so if you wanted to connect really powerfully with a certain star or a certain group of stars, you would want to do so and do your magical rituals or whatever is involved with that when the stars are highest overhead at midday. So really incredible. And of course, the sun was seen in the same way. And there are actually 5 different personifications of the sun, depending on where it is, okay, whether it's just rising or it's continuing its rise and getting stronger, or it's at midday, or it's beginning to decline, or it's declining and about to set. I'm not going to go into all of that whole teaching right now. That's something that Patricia Iwan is amazing at speaking about. But this sun was seen by the ancient Egyptians as the falcon god, Horus. And he represents our highest consciousness, the part of us that can defeat any untruths, that can defeat any evil, and that is so clear-seeing and that brings life to all things. Now, one more note about Horus. So the Sphinx, right? The Sphinx that we see today is carved with the head of a pharaoh. There's a lot of debate about what pharaoh that is. It could be the pharaoh Khafre. It could be another pharaoh. We're not completely sure. Many different researchers will say many different things about that. But the Sphinx, its head is actually too small for the body. And we know the body is a lion body. And so what is believed is that the Sphinx was originally carved with a different head. Could have been a lion head, could actually have been a hawk or falcon head representing Horus. Again, many different theories on this, but there's reason to be pretty certain that it was not originally carved with the pharaoh's head, that was an update and a recarving of the head that was done later on in Egyptian history, perhaps around the time that the pyramids were being built, because the Sphinx is much more ancient. We have now geological evidence that's very clear that the Sphinx has been weathered. And I'll even bring up an image of the Sphinx so that you can see this as we are speaking about it. Let's see if this is a good one. Okay, this is a cool one at sunset. You can't see all the features exactly, but this is powerful because it has the sun in its sunset mode. So here is the Sphinx, and so here is the head of the pharaoh. And here's the body of the lion going off kind of a bit at an angle out into the distance. And of course, the sun setting over his shoulder, it looks like. So the Sphinx, again, we have geological evidence now. Geologists have come in and studied this. And it's quite clear that the Sphinx has water erosion damage on it. And also the walls around the Sphinx, which are just as old as the Sphinx itself, have very clear evidence of significant water erosion. And this was not erosion from, the little bit that it rains in Egypt. Anytime in the last 5,000 years, Egypt has been, this Giza Plateau has been a desert and has not had any significant rainfall. That level of rainfall that we've had in the last 5,000 years in this place would not cause the weathering that we see on the Sphinx. It was really heavy rainfall, even some intermittent flooding that would have caused the damage, the water damage. So this causes us to date the Sphinx with quite some certainty, at least back to 8,000 BC. But researchers then that are bringing in astronomy to the equation, to the investigation, have really strong evidence that the Sphinx may have been built in 10,500 BC. The reason for that is 10,500 BC was a time when at the vernal equinox, the spring equinox, when the sun was rising, the sun would be enclosed in the constellation Leo at the spring equinox. And so this makes that time called the age of Leo. Whatever constellation is rising on the vernal equinox with the sun, that's what age we were in. So right now we're just at the end of Pisces and about to enter into the age of Aquarius. Well, 10,500 BC, which is 12,500 years ago, was opposite that on the zodiac. Okay, so that was the age of Leo. So what's really, really beautiful and fascinating here is that the Sphinx, carved possibly with a lion head, possibly with a hawk or falcon head, sitting on the horizon at sunrise on the vernal equinox, because the Sphinx looks directly east. The Sphinx looks directly at the sun as it rises on the equinoxes. This Sphinx then was looking in the mirror. So if the Sphinx was carved with a lion head, it was looking in the mirror because it would have been looking directly at the constellation Leo, as Leo was just rising above the horizon at the same time as the sun on the spring equinox. So there's a little quick glimpse into the Sphinx and some of the mysteries surrounding that. Now, the last piece that I want to share with you today is about weaving the fabric of reality. And this is something that we know the ancient Egyptians knew how to do. The ancient Egyptians knew how to use magic and ritual and ceremony and the life force energy within us, how to access the life force energy within water, within light, within the air, within all the elements. And they built their temples, especially to harness and channel this energy. Of course, many, many ancient civilizations did that. But because of the hieroglyphs and because we have these incredible documents in the pyramid texts and the coffin texts and other very detailed records from far, far ancient Egypt, we see this described in quite clear detail, although it's written a bit mysteriously, a bit cryptically, because these are the mysteries. And so it couldn't just be handed out to anyone. But we have such a beautiful reference source here for how to work with our own energy, how to connect with the energetic currents in the land, in the world around us, and truly how to use that energy to create different realities, how to weave the fabric of reality, which we each have much more power to do than we have been told. And so as I'm here beginning my time in Egypt, I am going to be deeply investigating and have my full awareness, a little bit of mind, but mostly heart and consciousness open to receiving more information about this. How do we weave the fabric of reality? And I want to share with you, before I close this call for today, something really beautiful. I want to share with you a video of the birds at sunset. Now, this is just near my house at a little town in Maryland, but I have seen this happen all around the world. And I was reminded of it yesterday because it happened at sunset here by the pyramids yesterday. I've seen the birds, and they are doing this all around the world at sunset time. Birds will come and gather and fly together in these circular patterns at the sunset time. And it is, if you've ever seen this happen, it is so beautiful. It is so clear that they are doing some sort of ritual, some sort of ceremony. And I truly believe, and what the information that's been downloaded to me about this is that the birds are weaving the fabric of reality. And every creature has a role and a responsibility. That's why we're all here. And the birds' responsibility, their role, is to assist the life force of all creation by weaving the fabric of reality with their flight. So as they move through the air, as they flap their wings, they are literally weaving the fabric that is holding everything in balance in our world. So I want to show you a video of this so you can take it in and see what you think, see for yourself. And then I invite you to go and look for this. Now, I've noticed it happens at really places that seem to be very powerful on the land. Like I've seen it happen multiple times here, right by the pyramids. This little place in Maryland is it's just a bit of land that I feel is really powerful. It's got some natural forest area that is protected forest that, you know, the government has vowed to never cut down these trees. So there's something special about this place. And the birds pick up on this energy, and I feel they pull that energy up from the earth. Maybe it is also pulling energy down from the heavens, of course, and they are using this energy and their own power of flight to weave the fabric of reality. So here you go. I will share this beautiful video with you and just really take this in. Try to drop into a bit of a meditative space if you can. I'll turn off my video and yeah, just take this in, watch and enjoy. So there they were, leaving the fabric of reality. And you could hear, before I turned off my sound, the cars. They're just, cars are just driving by. Nobody has any idea that this magical thing is happening overhead, right? But we know, I know, I was standing there honoring them, and now, and you can go out and find them when they're doing this in the special places that they do it. And you can stand there and honor them as well and send them blessings and all good energy. And so I will close with that. On that note, I am sending you all so much love. I will try to do more updates from Egypt. It's always a matter when I'm here of being in the imaginal realms and needing to come out of that and get on the computer. But I'm really hoping this time to send out more updates and let you really feel and experience my journey here as I go along. So I'm sending so much love to all of you. Many, many blessings, sending you lots and lots of light and magic from here in Egypt.